Good evening. Um, I commonly, I often speak about how, to me, climate change is kind of a foregone conclusion. Not an expert, not a climatologist. Have never advertised myself as such or identified myself as one. Um, but I talk often about how one thing I've learned with Trump is that the deniers, for them, it isn't really about science as it is that the economy is based off of coal and oil, and certain regions of the country really, I mean, they depend on it more than others. We all need, yeah, we all drive cars on gas, okay? you know, was but there's definitely certain areas that are disproportionately affected by use of fossil fuels. And there's a book I read a while back called The Long Emergency. I don't know where it is. It's a really great book. Really great book. But he had a hand in my growth. It's an example of how sometimes you can read a book when you're a kid and you don't really understand. Well, for me, you don't really understand. A lot of kids do stupid shit. I guess I was an idealist. I was somewhat patriotic, believing in the system, believing in the law and that things work the way they're supposed to work. And, I'm this, I'm not that, I'm A, I'm not B, I'm white, I'm not black, I'm this, I'm that, Then you grow and you realize that the world is really it's a big span of gray. And it's really about how you live your life and how you, the world you create, the children you have, whatever, the actions you take. I realize, like I said, more and more that it's not about science for them. It's about America. And see, the discussion on climate change is about more than just fossil fuels and all that. It's about the idea of America. And that's what I want to do this discussion about. And that is how, yes, climate change, to me, it's for conclusion. But, James Kunstler, the Long Emergency, he talks about peak oil and all that. I'm going to talk about him for a second. And he talks a lot, well, him and other people, they talk a lot about how we can't change the culture. The culture's not changing, and that we're not even moving in that direction and things like that. And he's right. But I want to talk about I want to talk to you guys about, how can I say it to you? The culture, the social fabric of America. And I want to start by talking about NASCAR. I want to talk about sports. I want to talk about just this whole culture of wastefulness, and that is a big part of the identity of America. It's like a man's identity. For some people, it's about sex. Some people, the identity of America is about sex and, having sex and penetrating women and just, I've got the biggest sexual organ out there. Not about, how you treat people and being an honest person and being a good person and being a loving person. For me, I look a little bit different. I don't think your sexual organ has even 10% of who you are as a man. I think for me, being a man, it's about my love. It's about my charity. It's about my peace. It's about my loyalty. It's about my honor. It's about just a lot of things. It's about what I do out here. It's not about what I got hanging between my legs, a piece of me. That's just me. Don't get it twisted. I am a man. I am a man, and I love being a man. I love that. But I just think that being a man is about so much more than that. I've spoken in the past about this. I don't like it. To me, the way the Caucasian operates, his way of getting back at people is by saying, okay, he'll go out and get something, a brand new tablet or laptop or something. He'll break it in front of a homeless person just to show you their power that it'll mean nothing to me. And I don't see that as plus. It's destructiveness. It's the spirit of it. I think the Caucasian, not all of them, but a good number of them and their culture really exists in chaos, prospers in chaos. Not saying that the Caucasian can't live in peace, but just that I think his system, it really prospers in chaos. And by that I mean death metal, metal period. Don't go that far. I think I mentioned earlier about NASCAR. I think I mentioned some other sports like other racing events that it's just pure celebration of wastefulness. Here you are racing cars. I think that for a very long time they used gas that wasn't even unleaded gas. I mean straight up leaded gas. I'm sorry. We sidetracked 300 times. I mean, people to go down there to watch it, you're basically risking getting hit by a tire or anything. You're breathing in all these fumes, and you're paying money to do it. Does it make sense? People go to these drag races and stuff. I went to one. And now we know that, like, that smell of the brakes and the burning tires, it causes a chemical response. It messes with your cortisol in your brain, your stomach. There's a stomach-brain connection. These chemicals are very bad for you. We're getting off subject. I don't think that you can even begin to deal with climate change until you deal with a cultural thing. That's why I'm like there's a guy that had an Eco Watch that was talking about how we have to drastically change the way we live, and he's right. But I think it's more than how we live. I think it's the culture. And NASCAR is definitely a big part of the culture down here, big time. I don't go to races. I'm not far from Concord Motor Speedway. I don't go to races. I have no interest in going to any of them. But I realize living up here, I've got to get ready for the traffic. Yeah, that's something that's gonna have to. Well, I'm working at night, but still, I'm gonna have to really prepare for that, dealing with the traffic and stuff that comes with it. I was staying in hotels. I remember, really getting in trouble like that because all the hotels fill up. These rednecks, they really rejoice in chaos, and they rejoice in wastefulness. And it's crazy that people, they talk about liberals and I guess for a long time I always thought conservatives kind of were okay, this goes back to my ignorance. My ignorance and lack of knowledge about white people and the society I live in. Because for a long time, I thought it was just liberals that are wasteful, that buy stuff and I realized that's not true. It's not. It really is a conservative thing to just be wasteful, and it's like they go out of their way to do these things, to just throw trash out anywhere. And I told you I was working somewhere, I was brushing my teeth in the sink, and I would turn the water off, and this one guy, one of these redneck truckers, gonna leave the water on and look right at me. It's like they have a joy in being wasteful. Like, I don't get it, man. And that's why I make the point to you that it isn't even really about climate change. It's not. It's not really about climate change as much as it is just a culture of I guess, feeling like being wasteful, that means you have ability. It's kind of like some folks, when they have money, they'll go out and they'll buy, a mint coat, or they'll buy something they don't need. Like for me, I buy all these fucking lights and stuff for my job that I probably don't need. The same thing. They do stuff that is of no benefit to them in any way. It's the same thing. And I that's why I go back to it, that you're not gonna fix climate change. I don't even know where you start. I guess I'm kind of like, if anybody out there, I'm kind of like speaking to the humanities when I talk. I don't have a solution. I don't have some, way to solve the situation we've gotten ourselves into. I guess I don't really have to. So my dad talked about having children. I can't even imagine having kids. This society is not sustainable. And I'm not even sure I'd even want to bring kids up in this kind of system. I mean, as I get older and older, I'm really kind of disturbed by the society I'm living in. I mean, especially in the South. My dad, gets something about having kids, and I'm just like, even if I had a woman, which I don't, even if I did have a woman and that's what I wanted, I had a house, this is a really fucked up society. And I'm not just talking about Trump. I mean, the plastic in the water, and like I said, climate change, and this income inequality is out of control, and just all these problems out here. The older I get, it's kind of like how they say you don't know how broke you were until you get money. Like when you're down and you don't have an apartment, you don't have a house, or you're just working, and you get somewhere, well, however you do, you get somewhere, you're like, damn, man, how was I making it back then? That's how I was. That's how I am. I can't imagine. I told my brother about climate change. He's like, well, that's what happened in my daughter's time. I'm just like, why would you want to bring your daughter, into this craziness? And storms are going to get stronger. There's no question. That's already happening. I mean, why would you want to bring your kids into this kind of world? I guess it's just me. That's how I look at it. I can't overlook reality. I'm not going to. I just can't. Can't. My brother talks about all this capitalism and stuff. I think it's because he wants to catch up. I've spoken that before. There's no catching up. And I don't mean to say this like, ooh, doomsday, the world's going to end tomorrow. No, it's just a future of diminishing returns. A future of things getting tighter. There was a white paper the Rockefellers wrote like 10 years ago. And it was like 4 different futures. One of them was a future where there was all this corruption and crooks and all this crime and nobody was to be trusted. One of them was like together better, where everybody worked together and the systems worked together and all that. One of them was you had really strong, like a fascist government, top-down fascist government, basically like Stalinism or Nazism or whatever you want to call it. The last one was, I call it crafty. It was kind of like people worked together. You had weak government. Climate change got really bad, and people worked together. People kind of cobbled things together, but things moved a lot slower. Like the world moved a lot slower. And I guess that's the future I see. I don't see a future that, it's going to get really bad. Trump's going to stay in office and take over, and he's going to stay in. I don't see it happening. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. But like I said before, I see a future of diminishing returns. I've already talked about the demographic change. I'm not going into that because it's beyond the scope of this discussion. I'm not here to talk white people. I'm not here to talk about them. I'm here to talk about the fact that they've got a culture that is very destructive. And it's a culture that I don't think you can really fix. And until you face that culture, you can't even begin to look at well, we're gonna do. You can't even begin to tamp down on emissions. They talk about India and they talk about China and all that. Man, are you kidding? These races and flying planes all around. That's why I say to you, when I hear the UN talk about, what's it called, 13 years, nothing's gonna change, man. Nothing's gonna change. You stop that. I mean, I ain't even read the whole climate report of the UN. I ain't even wrote it, and I'm not going to. Not going to. You're talking about doing something about climate change, and all these rebellion people are out here protesting and getting arrested. I get the stuff they send out. Okay, cool. And we got a president bombing, at war with like 4 countries at the same time, and they're in some kind of a state of war with Somalia. There's bombs in Somalia. We're not even talking about that. And you're talking about climate change. Nothing's going to change, man. And by that I mean the systems are not going to change to prevent this. Even if you could. I'm not saying you can. Even if you could. And I just don't think enough people talk about it. They talk about, climate change being, the cars and industries. They don't talk enough about the culture. And I realize that's really what I am. I'm a cultural guy. I critique the culture because I realize that from that culture comes the ideology of a people, of a nation. And it tells you a lot about them. And just these baseball games and stuff with all these lights and stuff like that. I mean, it's a lot of stuff. This culture is it's very destructive. And it's a throwaway culture. And I guess that's kind of why I sound kind of negative when I talk about American propaganda and things like that. Because I have a realization that you're not going to fix it. Sorry. There's no fixing it. I didn't even know peak oil was, they've been having diminishing oil returns since 1974. I didn't even know that. No one talks about it. They just say all this stuff's not real, ignoring basic facts that are already out there for all to see. I might look that up, that Rockefeller White. Because, I'm not going to lie to you. As I get older, I begin to look at those things differently, like the George Guidestones and all that, because I'm still the elite, but they want to preserve their stuff. And if you read between the lines, they're telling you reality. See, Alex Jones basically was just trying to say the white papers are all wrong. They're not wrong, but what they do isn't necessarily designed to help people. Does it make sense? Just because I come out here outside, if I go outside with my girlfriend and there's a crowd of people and I say, hey baby, get you a jacket. It's going to rain. Everybody else might be like, oh shit, they might get their jacket. I wasn't talking to them, but they heard me, right? Doesn't mean I'm telling the non-truth. Yeah, it's true, but I wasn't talking to them. They just happened to hear it. That's how I feel about these white papers. And I look at all the preparation the government makes. It's interesting to me about how Trump talks about, he basically, blows a bunch of BS and hot air about how climate change isn't real, and they had a bad snowstorm a couple of years ago. He's like, where's global warming yet? And I'm just like, wow. So someone's really got to explain to the president the difference between climate and weather. Like that's really where we're at now. That's really where we at now. That this is how dumbed down he thinks average people and his base are. That he's going to try to talk about climate change can't be real because of a really bad snowstorm. Really? Is that the best you got, ma'am? But I realized he's talking to that's when I started to realize he's talking to sheep. He's talking to ignorant people and they've had people on TV who show you, he's talking to them like they're sixth graders or 8-year-olds. He's talking to them like children. That's his plan. That's how he operates. I don't even waste my time talking about Trump and climate change. I'm talking about the culture. Like I told you guys, you don't like Trump. That's cool. But is your issue with Trump, or is your issue with almost 20 years of failed American foreign policy? What's your issue? Because to me, the Middle East, I have a lot more questions than just directed to Donald Trump in his couple of years in. Even if he gets another 4 years, I would still have a lot more issues than just him. And let's not try to just ignore Obama just because we've got a fascist. I hate that. It's almost like the American people, like we're hostages almost. And we're like, okay, well, at least one hostage taker isn't raping me. And he brings me food every so often. He takes me for urine breaks and lets me go to the bathroom once in a while. And he doesn't yell at me. He doesn't point the gun directly at me. So, he doesn't have a knife up under my throat. So, he's not really bad, right? You're still a hostage though. You're still a hostage though, right? And he's still your keeper, right? I don't care about the guy that comes in the room 10 minutes from now or the guy that came in 20 minutes before this guy. You're still a hostage. Don't forget that. I think that's the real problem with people like Trump, people like Obama. I don't know. People think that he's Obama for white people. I'm not even going into that. That'd be a waste of my time on here. That'd be a waste. That'd be a waste of my time. That's a waste of time. Waste of battery to even talk about it. I don't even like talking about Trump no more. I mean, and one thing I've learned about a lot of conservatives is they'll tell you, yeah, I know, like Bob. He told me he knew Trump was a liar. He don't follow Trump. And this white guy I work with, Nick, he don't either. So you're conservative. And you support a lot of what Trump does. But you're not even following it. A lot of black folks didn't follow Obama neither. But they weren't those black people weren't idealists. They really felt like Obama was like their brother. That's what a lot of them told me. From what I saw. They weren't idealists. They weren't people you even would discuss politics with now. They're not. They like the idea of a black guy in the White House. A black guy sitting in the Oval Office. That's what it was. That's pretty much the start and end of it. It didn't matter what he did. He could have fucked eight young boys and had a bunch of mistresses. Listen, let me tell you something. For some of those black people, you could have had a mountain of cocaine on that table, like the Scarface. They'd have been like, would have cared. That's wrong. That's wrong. I'm not defending that. That's just as wrong as Trump. It's Trump supporters. But I think for them it was kind of a grabbing the brass ring. Congratulations, black people. You grabbed the brass ring. Hate to burst your bubble, but America is still what it was before. Hasn't changed any. Might even get a little bit worse due to the demographic shift. But like I said, I'm done. I'll let you guys go. My main thing I wanted to make to you, the point I was trying to get across to you is just that you can't fix climate change. And not just because you obviously can't go out here and stop traffic right fucking now. You can't go out here and stop all these sporting events. You can't go out here and switch off all lights. And from what I'm hearing, if you did that, it would actually make it worse. If that makes sense. I've been listening to Guy McPherson. That may or may not be true. The point is, I'm living in reality. And reality is I live in a throwaway culture. That's all it is. I live in a throwaway culture. I live with people who live. I realize as I get older, every so often I realize more and more living in the South, you're living way behind the rest of society. You really are. whether that's socialized health care, or it's just dealing with climate change or pollution. They're dealing with institutions that they shouldn't be even existing. They should have went out of production over a decade ago. These old nuclear reactors. I mean, it's as I said earlier, this search, this unlimited production, it can't exist. You can't continue doing the things you're doing and hope to do anything with climate change. Talk about, But then I also look at stuff like Obama buying that land in Martha's Vineyard, knowing that, within a couple of decades or so, a lot of it will be flooded. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what to tell you about that. My dad told me, some people told me about that. That's the difference between me and you. Vote for the conservatives. I'm not going to blow stuff off because I'm a socialist. If Obama does something bad, which I didn't like him on a lot of things, I can still call him out. I just think he's a much classier guy in comparison to Trump. And he's more honest, he's more respectable than Trump. And I realized that I'm self-deluded because that just made him a better puppet. It didn't make him a better man. Just because just because I don't steal from people and I don't go out here and commit open crimes doesn't make me a good person, guys. Doesn't make me, I'm not robbing people, so I'm a good guy. I have a job, so I'm a good guy. I'm not stealing from people, so I'm not. No, man. No. Trump, in some ways, I kind of love what he does because he shoots himself in the foot. And I've said this before, and I'll end it on this, that there will come a time, if it'll be in the next 6 months, could be next month, there will come a time, and I don't know if it's something that's coming or it's something I'm looking at now that's top secret, but there will come a time to where the Trump supporters, Republicans in the Senate, will have to decide either loyalty to Trump and everything he represents, the racism, the bigotry, the homophobia, the making jokes all the time, the rudeness, the brusqueness of which they come out and we do quid pro quos all the time. Get used to it. And, basically glorifying and being a bully, glorifying and being a thug. We're thugs. Get used to it. We're the biggest goddamn thugs out here. When Mulvaney came out and said that. Will you follow that? Or will you finally realize this man has broken the law? And that this nation is a nation of laws. What side are you on? And that day is coming. I don't know when. I don't care. That day is coming. It may have already came with this thing with the pulling out of Syria. I've just kind of came to the realization that I live amongst my enemies, and that so many of them are so full of hate and rage that you're never going to get through to them. Not necessarily racists, but you're not going to get through to them. You're not going to wake them up. Same way as you're not going to wake them up about climate change. This stuff makes them feel good inside. They like to feel like we're the white man's on top. We're taking things back. We're taking our country back there. You're not going to fix that, guys. They've got to be moved aside before we can even begin to deal with issues that pertain to the brotherhood of man and to a prosperous society and a forward-thinking society. I don't hate white people. I don't want to kill them off. But I realize that for these Caucasians that I'm talking about, their culture is not sustainable. I'm not even sure we can really fix it. The older I get, I'm not even sure we can even fix their society. I don't. Sometimes I don't even really want. Sometimes I think to myself that really, the American society just needs to end. The empire needs to end. We need to go. I don't know what that would look like. I don't know how that would happen. I'm not here to go. That's beyond the scope of the discussion. But sometimes I realize that you're not going to fix these people. And you're a fool if you think so. These folks hate you. And they hate me. And they hate anybody that makes them think about reality. So